Hello everyone! Today we are going to do a late summer tour of my garage deck garden. Now I feel like it's been a while since I've at least taken you out here, because when I planted this garden, it wasn't a garden I was going to be taking cut flowers from, harvesting a lot of vegetables from. It's more just a garden to look pretty and hang out in, which is what I've been doing. It's also the only garden that I have with shade because we do have the pergola. So I've planted a few different things down here that I have on the rooftop decks. One of the questions I get asked most is, where exactly are all these decks? So in Chicago, a lot of the times you don't have space to go out wider, so you go vertical. So a lot of our outdoor space is on top of something. So the rooftop decks are on top of the second floor, the roof. And then this is on top of the garage. And then right down there is the patio where we just were in the last video where I had the shade plants that I pulled. So that's how it's all kind of connected together. You can't get from the roof to here without going through the house, but at least these two sections are connected. This is also new this year. So we moved here in 2020, and this was a rotting wooden deck until last year when we started construction to have it not be a rotting wooden deck so we can actually use it. So we never used it the first 4-5 years that we lived here. So the construction was last year, and then this year is the first year that I've planted on it, had furniture, been able to actually use it as a deck. So let me take you around. Oh, and because I did the what I won't do again just on the rooftop deck, I'm going to combine this tour with also things that I will not do again because they did not work on the garage deck as well. So when you come out of the house, you aren't at ground level. There's this walkway here, which then leads up to the garage deck, which again is on top of the garage. So technically it is a second story deck, I guess. I did put some plants here along the left side. This area, I would say, is either full shade to part shade. The sun hits all different areas around here. We have some trees. This area is definitely full shade. This gets sun in the afternoon, but then also the evening, just with the angle that the sun shines. So I'm going to take you up close and show you the plant variations. But in terms of what's here, I have one elevated flower box and a second elevated flower box. There is a pot up there that is being held up with a plant traps. And then I have a hydrangea down there on a stand, which leads to the archway that I had since 2023, waiting for this deck to be done. So in the center here is a sun patient orchid blush. This is recommended again for part sun to full sun, but it's in full shade here, doing okay. Then this one here is the soprano rose impatient, made for full shade. She is loving her life. And then down in the corners, I do have Supertunia Mini Vista White. It did look beautiful. We had budworms come through. She's just starting to bloom again. I probably should have trimmed her and I didn't. So I think next year I will still do impatiens here, but I will probably not do the petunias. I'm leaning more towards fewer petunias since the budworms always eat them at multiple points throughout the season. Now, this is a Superbena whiteout. It is also in shade, so I was hoping to show you one that's in full sun, but I didn't plant any in full sun, even though that is the light exposure they prefer. Again, I think this had more flowers a bit earlier. It's starting to cool off, so it's starting to slow down a bit. But what I like is that this looks like it's just floating, like a floating bush. There is a pot underneath the plant, and then there's what's called a plant trap, which is a ledge planter. So they have ledge planter, railscapes, two different products that help to grow plants in places where you normally can't. So this pot that's under the plant would not fit on this ledge because of the railing. So the actual plant trap goes around and holds the pot into place. And if that didn't make sense, because I don't feel like I explained that very well, here is what it is. So this slides under here, can also slide under the bottom of a balcony or anything that has this much space in between it, so any sort of railing. So the pot is on here, and then to keep the pot from falling out, you stick this metal stake into the pot. So this is sitting on this, you just can't see it, and it is very secure, nothing will blow it over. So I love these because I would have to get really narrow planters if I wanted them to fit on the railing, but this can allow me to put larger planters which don't have to be watered as often as something very small. Now also in here is a coconut appeal Hydrangea. It barely flowered because of the lack of sunlight that it gets over here, so I will not be growing Hydrangea in anywhere that does not get at least part sun, but probably full sun. It still grows a lot. Like, I like the leaf canopy, but I just need flowers if I'm gonna have this growing in my garden. Over here are 2 more of the coconut appeal thumbergias that I've been trying to kill, but they refuse to die. And by then, I mean I've just not been watering or paying any attention to them. So nothing on this walkway is set up on irrigation. The majority of the actual deck is though, which makes it very easy to maintain. So this, it did okay. I did plant them here. The railings are on the outside with the plant traps. My idea was that the vines would take over this whole walkway and there may be flowers, but there weren't. This has very limited light. The trees, the hornbeam trees are right next to it, so it maybe gets an hour, if that. And the canopy didn't spread as much as I would have liked. So honestly, I'm probably just not gonna do anything on this side next year. Even though it's only 3 feet over, the other side of the walkway does get a couple more hours of sun. So I'll probably just leave this as is and save all the planting for that side of the walkway. Well, before we get a little bit closer, let me pretend like I always store my hose and don't just leave it lying across the deck. All right, so this section, I have 2 pots down here with the campfire marshmallow bidens. This again is part shade, but they did bloom a little bit more than they did down on the patio at full shade. So I still like them. And the reason I put them here was because I got this sign on Etsy that I thought was perfect and the flowers looked very similar. So I wanted them planted next to each other. I will link the Etsy shop down below because she has a bunch of floral garden signs and she can customize them as well. This is one I just got as is because I thought it was perfect. I have a pot with a hydrangea in it over there. I don't know which hydrangea that is because I didn't label. So again, next year I will label. And then moving up the stairs is my favorite, well, I was gonna say, no, it probably is my favorite part. And it's this giant arch. So let's walk through it and then I will show you the arch on the other side so you can actually see the pots and the plants a little bit better. Isn't this cool? I used to think, well, I thought this about a lot of things. I thought you could only have a garden arch if you put it in the ground. But I thought that about a lot of plants, a lot of garden supplies that, oh, this won't work in a container garden. And then it does. So you walk through here onto the actual deck garden. So let me talk a little bit about what's happening here. It's a lot, and some plants have taken over other plants that you can't even see. For example, I do have climbing roses on each side of the arch that have been completely covered up by the thumbergia. So I don't know if they're still alive. I'm gonna be really sad because I'm assuming that they are not. So even though I like that the thumbergia did what I wanted it to do, which was climb the arch, I didn't want it to also kill the plants that were inside of it. So next year I will not be doing thumbergia on here. I don't think. I'm either going to do a rose or a thumbergia, but not both of them together. Now I still like how it looks. I just don't like that it, again, killed my roses. But it has the white flowers with the black centers. This is the end of some cosmos branches, which this was a white cosmos. And it's one plant in here. And I did like that at least these branches got out of the canopy of the thumbergia. It did look pretty. If I have a photo, I'll put it in. I'm sure I must have taken a photo, hopefully, when it looked pretty. But I did like that this was able to come out and just add a little bit more interest. Then we have this sweet potato vine, which isn't growing in this pot. So you can't see. I'll insert images. I will also link down the planting videos down below of each of these. But there is a tall viridec pot here, tall viridec pot here. The arch is in it. So the pot goes all the way down to the ground. It came with inserts, but I took the inserts out. And those are pots that are in front of the arch, which is where this is planted. But it has decided to take over this area as well, which actually this I don't mind. So I don't know if next year I'm gonna do plants like this that are aggressive and cover the arch fairly quickly, or if I should go with fewer plants, because I would like to have more flowers on here than just the greenery. So fewer plants with constant blooms that don't need to be trimmed every so often. Also, you could even, I mean, I'm thinking of, I could do melons up here. Ooh, cantaloupes would be really cool, or watermelons. I probably wouldn't do zucchini, but I could do some sort of fruiting vine over here. There's a lot of options, but I do think I will not be doing thumbergia here next year. Now, when you come through the arch, the first row on your left is another of my favorite parts of the garden, which is my container orchard. I've always wanted to grow fruit trees, and again, that was something I wasn't sure. Would I be able to grow them in containers? Would it be worth it? And So far, so good, but I say that with a few caveats. But first, let me talk about the pots and which plants are in them. All of these, yes, all of these fruit trees are from Stark Bros. I have a columnar apple here, then I have a Chicago hardy fig, I have a second columnar apple because you want two for cross-pollination, and then I have a honey babe miniature peach tree. And they are in either 20 or 21 inch pots. I have the 20 inch Brunella, 21 inch agave. Those are the same types of pots. These are from Crescent Garden. I do have a discount code of 15%, Chicago 15. I'll put that down below. These they did send to me, but then I did buy, I think I'm now up to 10 on my own, which I've definitely used my coupon code for those. Some things I'm not certain about. This is the second year for all of these trees. I got them when we were starting construction on the deck last year, thinking it would be done in a couple months, and that was not true. So these were all sitting on my rooftop deck in their nursery pots all season last year. I got them in spring 2024. In November 2024, I moved them down to our garage in their nursery pots. So they were protected from the elements. They weren't exposed to very, very cold temperatures. They weren't exposed to a lot of rain or snow, which over winter root rot kills more of my plants than just the cold weather itself. This year, they are in pots that are too large for me to carry downstairs. Too large, too heavy. So I will be attempting to overwinter them. When we get to the part where I will plan to put them for the winter, I'll talk about that. But I don't know if they're going to survive. I'm going to try my hardest to keep them alive because I do love them. I mean, I think the Chicago hardy fig is more than twice the size that it was. They are producing a ton. I'll bring you up close to see the fruit that's on these, but I'm just going to be so sad if they all die next year. So now let me brag about how good these are doing. I've probably harvested at least 10, maybe 15 figs off the plant already. There's a section of figs here. There is a section of figs up here a little bit higher. In fact, let me squeeze this one and see if it's actually, I think it is about ready. So this is one of the figs. I never had a fig before I got this tree. I got it because the word Chicago was in it, but I do like them. To me, they taste like, I don't want to say bland because that's not the right word, but it kind of tastes like a plum, but a little bit more bland. But it tastes still really good, and I just eat them raw, like pop them into my mouth like this. In fact, I just did that. So there's the inside of the fig. And then on this apple tree, I did thin it. So there were a bunch of small apples starting to grow, but I needed to thin them to give the apples room to increase in size. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 apples on this tree, which I think is pretty good for the second year for an apple tree. Now, while those two fruited, these two did not. This is the second columnar apple tree. The same things happened upstairs. I've mentioned this before. It still drives me crazy, but for cross-pollination to work, they have to be flowering at the same time. This one flowered first. There was like a day or two where the flowers overlapped, like the flowers on the one with the apples started to open. So I hand pollinated back and forth. This one did not get pollinated in time, but the other one did. And then my honey babe peach tree, I've heard that can take a few years. This is the second year for it, and there's no fruit. Then we have this pot, which looked a lot prettier before the budworms ate all the petunias. There actually is a trailing hydrangea in here. Something I'm doing differently next year is I'm not going to plant anything else in the same pots with a hydrangea. I've just found that when I've done that, the hydrangeas haven't been as happy, and when it's been a hydrangea alone in a pot, it has been happy. This is a self-watering container from Crescent Garden. I have self-watering aqua pots as well. These really don't need to be filled up very often. I think once every 4 to 5 weeks I filled it up, where my other ones needed about once every week or every 2 weeks, depending upon how hot it is. So I love these. But in here, what I have is the Pink Tiara Supertunia, which I love this. I think this was new for this year. It's really pretty, but not when it looks like this. So I think I like this variety enough to grow again next year, but I am not going to rely on petunias to make up the bulk of color in any single pot. I also had in here the Supertunia Vista Cool Jazz, so it's now mostly green, but at one point it did look pretty for a small sliver of time. Now, an example of a happy hydrangea is this Skyview hydrangea. It's in a pot that's maybe 8 inches in diameter. She will be potted up next year. I did want to mention that any hydrangea that's not a panicle hydrangea, which I don't know if any down here are, I have them on my rooftop deck where they have survived winter outside in a greenhouse, plastic greenhouse. These did not, so these will be going down to the garage. They're in a lightweight pot now. Hopefully, as I repot them up into a little bit larger pots. I can still keep it lightweight enough that I can carry them down, but look at the size of these blooms. This is a compact hydrangea, so it really is only supposed to get like 2 to 3 feet tall and wide. These blooms are larger than some of my non-compact hydrangeas, so I love this one very much. This one I love less, and that's okay. This is the Top Fun Mountain Hybrid Hydrangea. They are a little bit more cold tolerant, but I don't think, at least for the compact hydrangeas, I like the ones with the lacy caps as much, although I think they are better for bees, if I'm not just making up that fact. So this one, I'll probably overwinter it, but I might just give it away next spring because I really do want to focus on the hydrangeas that do the best. So I would rather have multiple of the Skyviews than one Skyview and one that kind of just looks like this throughout the season. So now I'm going to focus on the back border, which is doing so much better than I thought. You can see the pergola above it. Usually I leave the slats open a little bit to let in rain, to let in as much light as possible, but this is still a full shade section, and it's filled with more color than I ever thought possible for a full shade section, thanks to the Soprano Impatiens. And there are some Rocapoco Impatiens in there as well. I'll take you up close in just a second, but it is the Soprano Impatiens that have just been doing a fantastic job. I mean, even if you look at, so every white impatient that you see, that is one plant. That is how large one plant has gotten. This is the Soprano White Impatient, followed by the Soprano Violet Shades, and then the Soprano Rose. So you can kind of see the difference in color between the Violet Shades and the Rose, but this is what's repeated all the way down. The 2 Rocapocos, Rose and White, and then the 3 Sopranos, White, Violet Shades, and Rose. I did also want to point out, I put some Angelonia in here just to fill out space. Angelonia is listed as full sun. It doesn't even say part sun to full sun, just full sun, and it's blooming. It's not blooming a ton, but it's blooming a little bit, and I think, honestly, it's mostly that the Impatiens are covering it versus it's just not blooming very much, but as you get under here, you can see more of the flowers. Now, like I said, there are perennials in here. I think they might be dead now because the annuals got so large and covered them up. Yes, so you can't even see it anymore because it's really dead. There was a tiny Bobo hydrangea in there. And then let's see how the boxwoods actually look pretty good. Can you even see them down there? Oh my gosh, they're so tiny. I should have probably just went for larger boxwoods in the first place, but they are back there. So next year, well, next spring, I'll do an evaluation of what is still alive and what is not. I don't know if I'm either going to just stick to annuals in here because I do love the look of this. If maybe I will get some larger perennials so that they won't be overtaken, because I just don't think I can leave only the perennials in there and have it look as full as I want right now. Oh, and then I almost forgot this perennial, probably because it is still alive, but this is Scentlandia Sweet Spire. It turns red, the leaves turn red in the fall. It does have pretty white blooms in the spring, but I'm most excited for the fall color. I had this whole plan of these turning red, the Bobos turning pink, and now you can't even see the Bobos. So at least I know what happens with the mix of annuals and perennials, and I either need to go larger on perennials so they don't get smothered, or smaller on the annuals so they don't smother the perennials. This is the centerpiece for the table. Oh, also, all the furniture is from West Elm. I forget the name of the collection, but I'll link it down below. But this centerpiece, this is the best it's ever looked because, one, it's in way too small of a container. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I think I had 7 at one time, plants in a container that is maybe 4 inches deep and 3 inches wide. That was a very bad plan. However, right now she looks stunning. So I like how it looks now, but when it was super hot, one, the plants just weren't enjoying the heat in the first place, and second, it was drying out so quickly. This is not set up on irrigation, whereas almost everything around the edges is. So this one would also dry out really fast. I might not catch it in time. It might need to be watered multiple times per day when it was hot. So it's hard because this looks so pretty, but I don't know if I'll be using this small of a container next season. But again, I stare at this and I'm like, but look at her. So anyway, in here I have Rocapoco Impatient. This is Apple Blossom. I have the Euphorbia. I think this one is Diamond Snow. Yeah, Diamond Snow Euphorbia. And then last I have an Illumination White begonia there, which I love the flowers on that. It's the same series as the apple blossom one that I have upstairs and on the front pot. Probably my favorite begonia just because of the flower size. So should I do something differently next year? Yes. Will I? We'll see. Now we move on to this section, which is another one of my favorites. It has done so well. I don't think you'll appreciate how it looks now unless you see how it looked when I first planted. So I'll insert a picture of that here. But this was one of the projects for the Gardener's Idea Book for Proven Winners. So they sent me what is underneath the plants are 4 aqua pots, and then I also have 3 just 12-inch plastic pots that I had. So I have an aqua pot with a mixture of plants. I have a regular pot with just one of the sweet potato vines, and then it keeps going back and forth. But the purpose of this was to show how you can create privacy with plants. And I think this did a fantastic job. And there are some plants I have completely fallen in love with. So let me take you up closer and I'll show you what's growing. First up, I wanted to mention, I do have the coconut appeal black-eyed Susan vines here. They are not flowering as much as they did last year. They were in full sun on my rooftop deck last year. Same amount of sun, just none of them have really flowered as much as they did last year. I don't know why. I don't think I did anything differently with fertilizing or anything like that. So I don't know. It's just been kind of an off year for at least this Thunbergia blooming in my garden, which makes me sad because the flowers are really pretty. This is a mishmash of what is growing in the pots below the Thunbergia. So the Thunbergia is at the very, very back of the pot, growing up the trellis. I did have plants that got completely covered. Diamond Snow Euphorbia was in here somewhere. You can see a few of the Campfire Marshmallow Bidens, a few of the Supertunia Mini Vista White, but the leaves really took over this section. One that I've fallen in love with is the Plum Dandy Alternanthera. I love this color. I have been drawn to more darker colored foliage now that I have a garden with black accents, because I don't really have that on the rooftop deck, but this area of the deck feels much more modern, more blacks incorporated, so I am finding myself drawn to more black foliage. Now, there are actually 2 plants in each pot, even though it looks like there's just rows and rows of them. This one here is actually growing out of a pot over there, just coming up this way. So they are very good at spreading and creating a privacy wall. I also have in here Sweet Caroline Medusa Green, sweet potato vine. I like the look of this one because it just, I don't know how to describe it. I feel like the regular sweet potato vines almost look more like just a maple leaf, but I like how different these leaves look. And they do start off a little bit of that purpley color when they're small and then change to green as they start to mature. So I really do like how that looks. And then the other sweet potato vine, which I just kind of called boring, but this one here is the Sweet Caroline Upside Key Lime sweet potato vine. And this is meant to trail up, which it has done a fantastic job at doing. So these plants with the foliage did really well. They covered up some of the flowers, but I do love how this looks just overall. Next here I have what is my husband's herb garden. He's the main chef, so I got this raised bed that comes on wheels so I can move it around if we want to move this somewhere else in the garden. In fact, if we emptied it out and wanted to move it like down to ground level, it would be light enough to do that. But there's parsley in here. You know, we never ended up getting any basil, which I feel bad because he uses basil quite a bit. But there's parsley, oregano. I think we were growing something for our cats in here. There are the tiny Tom tomatoes. I think most of the parsley has now been taken over with butterfly eggs, which makes me happy as long as the wasps don't come and eat them. So we'll see if I get any caterpillars on here. Then behind this, which I also really like this section because you can't tell there's pots under it, but I have 3 plastic window boxes. And then I used, I think it was trampoline stakes to put over the railing. I have a video on how I did this process without the plants covering it, so I'll link that down so you can see what it looks like. But then it just looks like a wall of flowers and you can't really tell where it's coming from. So in here I have the Orchid Blush Sun Patient. I have the Campfire Marshmallow Bidens. This is where they are flowering most. They didn't get covered by anything and they aren't in the shade. This is full morning sun because the sun starts from behind us. And then I have some of the Angelonia, and this is the Cascade White Angelonia. I have very vertical Angelonia and then ones with Cascade in the name, which kind of fall like this. And I love them both because they bloom incredibly. I don't do anything to them. They don't really have any pest or disease issues that I've become aware of. So I love them. And with that, we're back to where we started in the garden. That's the garden, and some things I won't do again next year. This, again, there's not a lot that I have to harvest. Most of the plants here are really just to look pretty, but I might grab, you know, an apple when they're ready. I might grab a fig, but I'm not doing daily work down here like I am on the rooftop decks where I'm doing the cut flowers. I have much more vegetables and herbs up there. This is more of a relaxed space, which I really like, because oftentimes I'll go out on the rooftop decks and then I plan to sit and relax and read, but then I end up doing a bunch of garden tasks that I see need to be done. But this, since it's not really like a working garden, I can sit down and just relax. Also, the shade is definitely great, especially when we got up into the 90s and 100-degree temperatures in the middle of July. So this is the garage deck garden. Let me know if you have any questions on the pots or the plants. I will link down below any of the planting up videos that happened in May or June, so you can actually see the pots that are covered by these plants. But I really love this space. This, especially the arch, doesn't feel like it's on a deck. It feels like I'm in a regular in-ground garden, and I like when I can sort of feel that way, but also be on a deck. So let me know if you have questions down below, and I will see you in the next video.